For this series, we'll be playing a random deck versus a random quest. We take this over to a random number generator, plug that back into our URL, and this is the deck we will be playing. Hey folks, welcome to BenOrBreak. I'm your host Ben, and you join me in playing The Lord of the Rings, the card game, which is a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Recently turned 10 years old, and a revised core set is being released. If you've come into or back to this game because of the revised core set, let me know in the comments. If you're unfamiliar with this game, here's the product page, which I will link in the description. But more importantly, I will also link to some of the best community resources and content available for new players. Or you can stick around and learn as we go through this series. The format for this series is something a little unique. Each episode, we will take a random deck versus a random quest. Let me show you. Let's head on over to one of those community resources I mentioned, RingsDB, deck building platform. Again, link in the description. Here are the newest decks created by the community. Indeed, this is the newest deck. But this is not a random deck. I mean, it's random in the sense of I don't know what the most recently published deck will be when I visit the site, but we want something a little less determinate. So let's go to this deck and look at this number up here in the URL. This is telling us that this is the 24,976th deck published on this site. Every deck published before this has a number smaller than this in its URL. Every deck to be published in the future has one larger. So this gives us an upper bound. If we were to say, give me a random deck on this site. We take this over to a random number generator, set it as our maximum, 1 is our minimum, and it will generate us a number from 1 to this. We'll plug that back into our URL, and the Fire of Imrahil is the deck we will be playing. Now, oh wow, we really lucked out. This is an Outlands deck. It relies on getting all of these Outlands allies out. They all buff each other and Outlands heroes. I should really say Outlands hero. Hirluin the Fair is the only Outlands hero. He has ranged. You may use resources from Hirluin the Fair's resource pool to pay for Outlands ally cards of any sphere. That is why we have all these off-sphere cards in a leadership deck. So we'll have to pay for stuff using Hirluin the Fair. Alright, so let's get our random quest by clicking the option to log a quest, and then randomize. We will be playing Desert Crossing. Now, as for our platform, we will be playing on Dragon Cards. Another community platform linked in the description. Primary consideration is the time it would take to assemble these 50 cards in my own collection. This way, we can get right to the action. Another factor, we'll be playing digitally. It's a lot easier for me to record digitally. I don't have a quality camera at the moment. Finally, I don't have a complete collection anyway. In the series, there may be player cards that I do not personally own. So we will only be playing quests I have played. Think of it as borrowing a friend's deck for 1 week to give it a spin against a scenario from your collection. Speaking of, let's finish our setup. Dragon Cards has some automated quality of life features. It has already drawn our starting hand. And we have lucked out yet again. My goodness. So these are in my opinion, 2 most important Outlands allies. The Spirit ones boost willpower, which we use to quest, and the Lore Anfalas Herdsman gives each Outlands character you control +1 hit points. That's actually important because these Outlands allies start at only 1 hit point. They're very squishy, they're very easy to lose from treacheries, and this gives us some insurance against that. He's also a cheap ally to play. Finally, perhaps even better, we drew a Steward of Gondor. This is kind of a notoriously broken card in this game, in just how many resources it can generate over the course of the game. So, we've got our deck. Now let's load that quest. You have escaped from Umbar and thrown off your pursuers by fleeing into the desert, but many barren miles lie between you and the other side. To turn back is to walk into the arms of the Haradrim, so you set out on a dangerous desert crossing. Each player searches the encounter deck for a copy of Burnt Sands and adds it to the staging area. Shuffle the encounter deck. Place the heat tracker next to the quest deck and set the temperature to 10. Okay, so I'm recalling that this scenario has a special mechanic where we need to track the temperature of the desert as we cross it. I'm not really sure the best way to do this. Here's what we will be doing. We will be placing progress trackers on Imrahil. Progress trackers are normally only go on locations and quests, but we will just say this is our heat tracker over here. So we're going to set the heat tracker to 10. All right. We're only one player, so we only need to start with one copy of Burnt Sands in the staging area. Burnt Sands, while the temperature is 40 or higher, it gets +2 threat. After it becomes the active location, increase the temperature by 2. All seemed ruinous and dead, a desert burned and choked, from the Return of the King. Right, let's flip our quest card. As the sun climbs into the sky, you can feel the rising heat begin to take its toll on you. Forced, after an ally enters play, either exhaust it or deal 1 damage to it. At the end of the round, increase the temperature by 4. If the temperature is 60 or higher, the players lose the game. It's great that we have means to boost hit points, because it looks like we may have allies enter play damaged sometimes. I suppose I'll mostly be choosing exhaust it, but that will depend on our circumstance. Okay, that's it for setup, and we proceed to the resource phase of round 1. Dragon cards automatically puts a resource on each of our heroes and draws us a card. We have Prince of Dol Amroth. Attached to Prince Imrahil, Prince Imrahil gains the Outlands trait. While you control Outlands allies that belong to 4 different spheres, add 1 additional resource to Prince Imrahil's resource pool when you collect resources during the resource phase. If Prince Imrahil is a hero. He is over here. And I have actually never got to use this card. So I'm excited to try it out. First move is pretty obvious. We will be playing Steward of Gondor. Now I'm going to pay with Imrahil and Imrahil's resources to conserve as many resources as possible on Hirluin. Steward of Gondor. Attached to a hero. Attached hero gains the Gondor trait. Action. Exhaust Steward of Gondor to add 2 resources to attached hero's resource pool. Or flavor text. It was commanded yesterday. Denethor, the Return of the King. Not quite sure I remember the context of that quote. Alright, so we will exhaust it and add 2 resources to Hirluin. So we're back up to 3 resources total. So I'm going to pay 1 resource from Hirluin. He can pay for Outlands allies of any sphere, and we'll buy an Anfalas Herdsman. Then we will pay 2 resources for our Ethir Swordsman. Now we're ready to go into the quest phase. We will be sending... Oh, I forgot to exhaust or damage these guys. So there's no such thing as a playthrough of Lord of the Rings living card game without making some mistakes. So thankfully I caught that one. That ally we will exhaust. I'm bringing into play. This one... You know, I think I will also exhaust this. So obviously we're playing against random quests. I haven't looked at the encounter deck beforehand, but we are also playing against quests that I have played before. And I think I remember there being some stuff that specifically targets and punishes damaged characters. So I think I'm just going to let these guys be exhausted for now. And we'll quest only with Hirluin and Imrahil. Alright, let's stage our encounter card. We have a Sand Viper, 44 engagement cost, 4 threat. Players cannot declare defenders against Sand Viper. After the players travel to a location, Sand Viper engages the first player. That is us. To some, suddenly it seemed that they saw a snake coiling itself to strike the 2 towers. Okay, so unfortunately that thing's worth 4 threat, plus the 2 we already have. We're only questing with 4 willpower. We make -2 progress, which translates into +2 to our threat. If this reaches 50, we are eliminated. Okay. Burnt Sands. We kind of just have to travel there, or else it's going to stick around for the whole game. So, that is done. Forced, after it becomes active location, increase the temperature by 2, using this as our temperature tracker. Finally, Sand Viper says, forced after the players travel. Sand Viper engages the first player, as we saw. Right, now we're on through encounter phase to combat phase. So, we cannot declare defenders against this thing. So we're just going to take the attack undefended. That's what we have to do. Attacking enemy gets +1 attack, +2 if the temperature is high. We're not that high. So right now it's only +1 attack. This leaves this guy at 2. We'll put that undefended damage on Prince Imrahil. That's all the enemy attacks resolved, just this one enemy. So we will declare Imrahil as our attacker. 3 attack versus 1 defense. Deals 2 damage. Now as we move into the out of the combat phase, we discard the shadow card, refresh all our characters, and we'll move into the resource phase. 1 resource for each hero. Draw our card, Hunter of Lamedon. I think Forlong and Hunter of Lamedon are the only Outlands allies that do not directly boost other Outlands cards. But they're still great to have just because of the Outlands trait. You'll see why as we go. We'll exhaust Steward of Gondor for more resources. Thematically, probably Prince Imrahil would be more likely to be the Steward of Gondor. But Hilarity the Fair is a noble of the Outlands of Gondor. Hilarity the Fair of the Green Hills from Pinath Gelin, says our flavor text from the Return of the King. Alright, with these resources, interestingly, Imrahil has the tactics resource icon right now because we are engaged with at least 1 enemy. That allows us to play Gondorian Fire. Now, I'm not sure which hero the deck builder was anticipating attaching this to. As someone who plays a lot of multiplayer, I would probably do Hilarity. He has the ranged characteristic that allows him to attack enemies in front of other players, engage with other players, that is. So, why not? He is a Gondor hero, because Steward of Gondor grants him the Gondor trait. I think Imrahil will end up being more our defender. Let's spend from Imrahil's resource pool to bring in Knights of the Swan. Boost each Outlands character we control by 1 attack. That is all our allies. That is itself. That is Hilarity the Fair currently. Okay, for our final 3 resources, we really want to control Outlands allies that belong to 4 different spheres, because that benefits Imrahil, and that also benefits Forlong. So let's get Forlong into play. And now, 1 Outlands ally from each sphere. His attack and will are being boosted. And we get to ready him at the beginning of each phase. Right, unfortunately we can't quite play these cards yet, but we already have a pretty strong board state. So, let's quest Prince Imrahil, Unfloss Herdsman, Aether Swordsman, Forlong, and we'll leave Knights of the Swan ready just in case we need him. After Towering Dunes becomes the active location, reveal the top card of the encounter deck. That is a nasty effect, because it often just replaces itself. Thankfully though, the Outlands power is already functioning. We're questing for plenty. We make 4 progress. 3 goes onto Burnt Sands and explores it, and the remaining progress onto the main quest. Looking at the main quest reminds me, we forgot to increase the temperature by 4 at the end of the round. No matter, that will have had no effect so far. Oh, that also reminds me, after an ally enters play, either exhaust it or deal 1 damage to it. So we would have exhausted Knights of the Swan, and we would not have been able to quest Forlong. I think I would have him enter play exhausted also. Okay, then we'd only make 2 progress. Sorry folks, I'm not sure if I'll cut there, but mistakes happen. That's just how it goes with this game. Alright, Sand Viper time. There's a side quest, which is excellent to get as a shadow card because it has no shadow effect. Sand Viper deals 1 damage to a character we control. Sorry, to a hero we control. Must be a hero. I'll do Hilarity. And then finally, we get to hit back, annihilate the Sand Viper. Sweet! Let's move to the next round. Refresh, resources. Our card draw is a Dunedain Mark. Use Steward of Gondor, because why not? And let's finally get out Prince of Dol Amroth. Most important thing, he gets the Outlands trait. We'll also be collecting an additional resource when we collect resources during the resource phase. So I will note that here with Dragon Card's automation options, and we'll have to remember to look and see if that happens. Speaking of end of the round stuff, increase the temperature by 4 from the main quest card effect. And we will play Hunter of Lamadin. We will choose to exhaust it. Let's get its buffs set. And Imrahil is now getting these buffs too, since he now has the Outlands trait. And finally, we'll play a Dunedain Mark, because we have nothing else to spend on. Let's quest. Our card. Giant Scorpion. After Giant Scorpion damages a character, that character cannot ready until the end of the round. So that can really shut down strategies where you have one sort of sentinel character with a lot of readying attachments or abilities defending the whole board for several players. But as it is, we don't have any readying power except for Forlong and Prince Imrahil. So we do make 2 progress, one onto Burnt Sands, one onto the main quest. Maybe we should be questing a bit harder. Temperature is going to go up every round. Okay, now we can finally declare a defender. That'll be Imrahil, of course. Got to ready Forlong at the beginning of each phase, so we'll do that. Either increase the temperature by 2 or return attacking enemy to the staging area after this attack. Let's see. What we do there will depend on whether we have enough attack to kill him. Heroin is at 1, plus 1, plus 1 is 3. Lights the Swan brings it to 4. Forlong is 1 plus 1, so 6. We have enough to kill it. It has 2 defense, and then the remaining 4 damage would go to hit points and destroy it. So we are going to choose to increase the temperature by 2 rather than returning the enemy to the staging area. We want to kill this thing. That is what we do. Resources. Use Steward of Gondor. We'll remember to increase the temperature. And now we have nothing we can play. Sneak Attack puts an ally card into play from your hand. We do not have any ally cards in our hand. We've played them all normally, which is good. Let's quest. I like to leave one ally up as a potential chump blocker. Hunter of Lamadin is the most disposable because he does not boost other Outlands allies. I suppose I could have used his response. After I play him, reveal the top card of my deck. If it is an Outlands card, add it to your hand, otherwise discard it. But I often don't even use that response when I've played Outlands. So we are questing for 9 versus 3. We will make 6 progress depending on what comes out. We get Parched Wadi. Each creature enemy, +1 threat, +1 attack. And after it becomes the active location, shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until a creature enemy is discarded. Add that enemy to the staging area. This one reveals the top card of the encounter deck. This one is guaranteed to add a creature enemy to play. I think we have a fair amount of attack power and defense up. We will choose to travel to Parched Wadi after resolving the main quest. We make 3 progress. 4 more will advance us to the next quest stage. Move to encounter deck, shuffle in, and discard cards until we discard a creature enemy. There it is. Add it to staging. This is a wereworm. X is the tens digit of the temperature. Currently 2. We are at temperature 26 from our little janky tracker over here. After it engages you, it makes an immediate attack without a shadow card. Alright, and it will be engaging us. It has an engagement cost of 22, and we are at 34. So, before long, we'll have readied at the beginning of the travel phase. Here's our shadow card. Let's defend with a wrong button. Defend with a Imrahil. So that would be its attack from engaging us. Right, so when it engaged us, it should not have gotten a shadow card. So we would have declared Forlong as the defender, because we know the werewolf will only attack for 2. Forlong would take 1 damage, and then ready at the beginning of the combat phase. Then we would have declared Imrahil as defender, revealed this shadow card. No effect. Now, how much attack do we need to take this guy down? Looks like 7. As established, here Lewin's at 3, Forlong's at 2, and Hunter of Lamenon is at 2. 7 attack. Alright, let's move to the next round. We are quickly going to amass more resources than we can spend, which is okay. Here's one. Exhaust 2 allies I control to shuffle my deck and discard the top 5 cards. Put up to 2 allies discarded by this effect into play under my control. Total cost of the allies put into play cannot exceed the total cost of the allies exhausted to pay for this effect. I was coming over the mountains with a friend or two, Gandalf the Hobbit. So we will do that. Forlong is great to use this card with, because he's a 3 cost, and we want to make sure we have high cost allies to cover the cost of allies we're putting into play. And we'll also do Ether Swordsman. So that's a total of 5 resources. Shuffle my deck, shuffled, and discard the top 5 cards. I'm going to draw them into my hand for easier viewing. We drew this. Well, we did get 2 allies. That's the good news. We have Aaron Rider and Faramir. The rest of these are events and an attachment. And thankfully, Faramir costs 4, Aaron Rider costs 5. We exhausted 5 cost worth of allies, and so we can put these folks directly into play. After an ally enters play, either exhaust it or deal a damage to it. We'll exhaust Aaron Rider, and I may deal a damage to Faramir, just because his ability is so powerful. Action: exhaust Faramir to choose a player. Each character controlled by that player gets +1 will until the end of the phase. I think I may have forgotten to increase the temperature at the end of last round, so we will also do that. Okay, these were all discarded, and we will proceed to quest. So we're only questing for 5, but Faramir can instantly rocket our questing power up significantly. Oh, I forgot, Forlong readies at the beginning of each phase. We exhausted him in the planning phase, so now he's ready to quest in the quest phase. So far, we're questing 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. Faramir can immediately boost us by 4 then. I will take a risk and quest Hunter of Lamenon also, because I want to make sure we get through the main quest this stage before our temperature gets too high. Okay, our card. Desert Oasis. When Desert Oasis is explored as the active location, heal 4 damage from among characters in play. That will be useful. But after Desert Oasis becomes the active location, each player exhausts a character I control. That is no problem. We don't have any enemies engaged with us. So we make a total of 4 progress. I will exhaust Faramir to give all characters we control +1 will until the end of the phase. That'll increase Imrahil, Unplussed Herdsman, Knights of the Swan, Forlong, and Hunter of Lamenon. Make a total of 9 progress now. That gets us through Parched Wadi, and that also gets us through the Desert of Harad. Stage 2A, Under the Merciless Sun. When revealed, increase the temperature by 2. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and reveal 1 encounter card per player. A Treachery, Unbearable Heat. When revealed, each player assigns X damage among characters he controls, where X is the 10th digit of the temperature. Alright, well that's 3 more damage coming our way. We have to start stacking it on some of these Outlands allies. 1, 2, and we've resolved that. Did I read the flavor text? You trudge across the barren desert with the blazing sun overhead and deadly creatures underfoot, but nothing is more dangerous to you than your lack of water. If you cannot make it across the desert soon, you are certain to die of thirst. At the end of the round, the temperature is still increasing by 4. Then we are basically resolving this kind of effect again. Each player assigns X damage among characters he controls, where X is the 10th digit of the temperature. Now, I remember the last time I played this scenario, we were using the dwarf hero Glowing. When he takes a damage, he adds a resource to his resource pool. So he ended up quite wealthy by the end of this scenario. Damage is not as easy for this deck to handle, I don't think. I do not think we'll have any healing. I could look the deck list to verify that, but it's more fun to be surprised. Okay. We'll have to remember that end of the round effect. Now we can travel. We'll travel to Desert Oasis. We can use the healing right now. Must exhaust a character we control. Let's do Hearlewin. Doesn't really matter. There's no enemies in play. And we will heal 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. Alright, and we'll just move to the next round. Unforeseen Herdsman, very nice. So now we do not have the effect that is exhausting allies when we play them. So I will play the Unforeseen Herdsman. He is getting bumped. Hopefully we can start drawing some more cards soon. We don't have any innate card draw as it stands. I think we have to just rely on Lord of Morthon attachment. We discarded one. Hopefully there's more of them in the deck. We need 14 progress to bust through here. Okay, well let's get our booties moving. I will leave Aaron Rider up as our chump blocker. Right. Our card is a Sand Viper. So we're making 5 progress currently. If I exhaust Faramir, that will boost us by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would bring us up to 12 progress. That looks like the move. Okay, 2 progress goes on Desert Oasis. We did its response early, so there's another asterisk on this quest. Heal damage, 4 damage from among characters in play. That's fine, there wasn't any combat. We would have just healed the same damage we did earlier, so technically they would have been healed now. And the remaining 10 progress on the main quest. We have to decide whether to travel here or not. I think we'll just leave this here and quest over it. It stops us from placing progress on locations in the staging area. Normally you can't do that except by special player card effects, and I kind of doubt this deck has any of those effects. So we will just do this. Leave it there and not have to reveal the top card in the counter deck, because we're questing for a lot now with Faramir plus Ethir Swordsman boosting everybody. So, do we optionally engage it? I'm questioning whether we engage it or not, if we're not traveling. We would be able to kill it. I think let's get that 4th threat out of the staging area. We cannot declare defenders, so it is undefended. If this attack deals damage, the defending character cannot ready until the end of the round. It is undefended, so there is no defending character. Not like it matters anyway. So we will assign that damage to Prince Imrahil. And we will attack back with Imrahil. All these folks, why not? There's plenty. Okay. No. Probably no point, but I'm going to use Aaron Rider's ability to move a resource from Imrahil to Hearlewin just because of Gondorian Fire. Spend 1 resource from attached hero's resource pool to give attached hero +1 attack for each resource in its resource pool until the end of the phase. That will just, at this point, boost Hearlewin's attack up to 8 immediately if I spent one of those. Regardless, let's continue. Yep. So this time when we play Hunter of Lamedon, we are definitely using its response. Reveal the top card of my deck. If it's an Outlands card, add it to my hand. Otherwise, discard it. That is Gandalf. That would have been really nice to draw next round. We could have played him and drawn cards with his ability. Oh well, he's discarded. He's not an Outlands ally. So it goes. Alright, let's quest hard and get out of here. Really, we may not even have to quest that hard. This should be plenty. Okay, on counter card, Scorched Hamada. X is the tens digit of the temperature, which we forgot to increase at the end of the round. That would go up to 36, and we'd have to assign damage. This guy, he only has one printed hit point, but both of these Unfloss Herdsmen are boosting his hit points. Is there a hit point token? There is. I didn't know that. Well, might as well get these all out for completeness' sake. Right. After Scorched Armada becomes the active location, assign X damage among characters in play. Man, they're just going to keep piling on the direct damage. Regardless, we make 8 progress currently. Don't even need to exhaust Faramir. That will get us through this quest stage. Stage 3A, Beasts of Legend. We've wandered through the trackless desert and discovered the legendary nesting grounds of the wild wereworms. Totally not sandworms from Dune. The beasts rear up and circle to attack. You must drive them off or meet your end upon the desert sands. When revealed, increase the temperature by 2. Done. Each player searches the encounter deck, discard pile, and victory display for a wereworm and adds it to the staging area table. Shuffle the encounter deck. Do we have any in the discard pile? Nope. Okay. Flip. During the quest phase, add X threat to the total threat in the staging area, where X is the tens digit of the temperature, currently still 3. Finally, at the end of the round, the temperature will still be increasing by 4 each round. While at least one wereworm is in play, the players cannot defeat the stage. If we defeat the stage, we win the game. Okay. Might as well travel. At this point, why not? Okay, 3 more damage assigned among characters in play. Wereworm engages us. His stats are now at 3 each. After he engages you, makes immediate attack. Do not deal it a shadow card. For one attack, we are definitely defending with Imrahil. For the other attack, I'm contemplating jump blocking. For long we'll have readied. I might just lose this Errand Rider. I can't remember if there's shadow effects that punish characters being destroyed. I think there might be, but we'll have to risk it. Regardless, during the encounter phase, it engages us. I'm going to use Imrahil as our defender. And then for the combat phase, it gets dealt a shadow card. I declare Errand Rider as our defender. No shadow effect. Errand Rider is destroyed. Prince Imrahil's ability triggers. After a character leaves play, ready Prince Imrahil. And finally, we get to swing back if we want. Now, Heirloin's currently at 3 attack, but we could spend a resource using Gondorian Fire and boost that by a ton. Imrahil's at 4. That's 7. We need 8. Yeah, we have so much attack. So much. Goodbye, wereworm. Alright. On to the next round. Hopefully this will be the last round. Our strategy is, of course, just to quest hard and clear this quest card. We increase the temperature by 4 at the end of the round. Pile up more meaningless resources. Alright, that's our tokens all assigned. Off we go. We're going to quest basically everybody. I may even quest Imrahil. Yes, we'll quest everybody. Forlong can ready if we need to take an attack or something. Faramir obviously won't quest. He is more useful staying up to use his ability. We'll see if we need it. Currently we're making 15 progress, which would not be enough on its own. Maybe I will preemptively exhaust Faramir. That would boost our will by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This should be funny. Let's see what our card is. Towering Dunes. No problem. We're making 23 progress. Oh. This adds X threat to the staging area. X is currently 4. So we'll just slap that here. Still making 19 progress. 4 onto the active location. And 5th. Oh no. Oh no. 19. 4 progress on the active location. 15 on our current quest. Folks, our luck has finally turned against us. We should still be fine and win next round, but I was really anticipating questing through this round. We are off by 1 progress point. Alright. Well, we're not traveling to either of these places. We'll just move to the next round and try again. Another attachment we can't play. Same thing, everybody quests, except Faramir, who uses his ability. So our card, Mirage. When revealed, discard the active location. There is no active location. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until a location is discarded. Make that location the active location. Shuffle into deck. I think I saw an new automation option. Discard until location. That is Burnt Sands. After it becomes the active location, increase the temperature by 2. Which I think we forgot to do at the end of the round as usual. Okay. We're done resolving that treachery. We're still making 19 progress. 3 goes there. And the remaining 16 onto the main quest. Episode 1 of the Rando Deck Series is a win. Let's go back to RingsDB and take a look at our deck. Give that a review. So I really like the shtick of a mono leadership Outlands deck. Even though your Outlands allies are all in several different spheres, the mono leadership lineup is mostly designed to take advantage of one card, possibly a second card. The most important one, Lord of Morthond. This is great card draw for Outlands. Basically, when you play an ally that is lore, spirit, or tactics, draw a card. So that allows you to play some of your cheap Anfalos Herdsmen, Knights of the Swan, and then immediately draw more cards to replace them and also play. The other card this deck is trying to take advantage of is Strength of Arms, down here. We never got to draw one of these, but it is a very strong card, especially in multiplayer, but it does require you had to be running all leadership heroes, because that readies each ally in play. That's one of the ways you can break Faramir. Speaking of, as for changes I would make, I would possibly include another copy or 2 of Faramir. I don't remember if it's one of those cards that only has 1 or 2 copies in the core set. Well, the old core set. Revised core set, 3 copies of all player cards, basically. More like the release model for the rest of the game. So you could pull out a Forlong to accomplish that, or some of the attachments. We'll get down to the attachments in a minute. Errand Riders. You know, I kind of do like having the Errand Riders. I wasn't sure about it at first, but so for this lineup, you're reliant on getting a lot of resources on Hyrule. Steward of Gondor is your main way to do that. This deck is only running 2 copies, and again, maybe it's just a core set thing, but if you have 3 copies available, it's usually worth doing. This allows Hyrule, to be able to pay for all these other off-sphere allies that he can't otherwise, but if you don't get to Steward, Errand Riders can also help with that. You can use them to move resources from your other heroes to Hyrule, who can then use them. Also, in a multiplayer environment, if you get to the point where you've got a strong swarm out and your card draw can't really keep up with your resources, especially with this particular deck, this has a lot of resource acceleration. In addition to Steward of Gondor, Imrahil also technically has some resource acceleration while you're engaged with at least 2 enemies. And Prince Imrahil, through the Prince of Dol Amroth attachment, also gets an additional resource each round when you have your Outland Swarm up and running. So at that point, it can be pretty helpful to send excess resources with Errand Rider to other players and prop them up. Steward of Gondor is unique. You can only have 1 in play, and you don't want to be hogging that the whole game. Attachments-wise, I guess the one thing I kind of missed was some readying. A great leadership attachment for readying a defender is Armored Destrier. I think it's from the Greyhaven's Dream Chaser cycle. It's really, really great for just making use of one hero stats for multiple defenses. I get that for this deck, Ancestral Armor is more the restricted attachment for Defender, but Armored Destrier, I almost think the readying is more important than the boosted defense. You can also include more of these Dunedain Warnings to boost defense. This deck only has 1 copy. I often run 3 of these things. They are so good. When you combine them with readying. It means you're using that bonus multiple times every round. The final alternative, feint from the core set. You would only be able to play it while you're engaged with an enemy, because that's when Imrahil has the tactics resource icon, but when you're engaged with an enemy is when you need to play feint, so I think that would work out. That's kind of another alternative to, instead of building up a hero defender, use that to cover like early game when you're not ready to deal with an enemy, or late game where you don't want to chump block, whatever the case. Often a very good card to pack when you have the ability. That's what I would take out to sort of facilitate that. I would say more of the attack-oriented stuff. Dunedain Mark and Gondorian Fire. We never really struggled for attack. We never used Gondorian Fire's effect, even though the deck's named after it, just because it's not necessary. Once you get out one Knight of the Swan, your whole Outland Swarm ends up having a lot of attack. And I get that this deck does pile up resources, and that's fun to do with Gondorian Fire, but you could just leave one of these options, but not both. Dunedain Mark again, +1 attack to a hero. Oh my. Okay, so there was healing in this deck. I would have liked to see Dunedain Remedy. We never drew into it, but when you attach it to a hero, you heal a damage from that hero, and you can pay a resource to pass that to another hero. Given how many resources we had, we could just pass that around trivially in those last few rounds and get all our heroes up to full health. So I'm glad to see that included. Would have liked to see it when we played. Same thing with our card draw. We missed Lord of Morthond. We missed Gandalf. But, like I said though, overall, very strong deck. We kind of lucked out for the first episode of our Rando Deck Series. We'll see if our luck holds for the next deck. I am hoping to be releasing them every week on a Sunday, so if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, you know what to do. Click subscribe, click the little bell. I know you've heard it 100 times on this platform, but engagement, really any kind of engagement, is how you tell the algorithm what you want to see. I am hoping you will join me for the next episode. Goodbye until then.